Timeline 1970. Everything that happened in 1970. What if I told you 1970 didn't just start a new decade? It kicked off one of the wildest, weirdest, most unforgettable years in modern history. From epic music moments to political chaos, tragedy, and cultural shifts, we're diving into everything that happened in 1970. Buckle up. This year was anything but quiet. Keith Moon accident. It was supposed to be a simple night out, just drinks, friends, and a quick celebration at a small-town pub. But for Keith Moon, the brilliant yet tormented drummer of The Who, January 4th, 1970, became a night marked by tragedy. Outside the Red Lion in Hatfield, England, an aggressive crowd surrounded Moon's luxury Bentley, angered by the rock star's extravagant presence. Bottles flew, fists slammed against metal, and panic set in. Neil Boland, Moon's loyal driver and bodyguard, stepped out to defuse the chaos and was attacked. In a state of fear and disorientation, Moon, reportedly intoxicated and without a license, got behind the wheel and attempted to escape. In the confusion, he accidentally struck Boland, who tragically lost his life. Although a court later ruled it an accident, clearing Moon of legal responsibility, the emotional burden haunted him for the rest of his life. He often woke from nightmares, whispering the weight of guilt no verdict could erase. Gaddafi becomes premier. It began with a whisper in the desert winds, a promise of revolution carried by a 27-year-old army officer with fire in his eyes. In January 1970, just months after leading a bloodless coup that removed Libya's King Idris, Muammar Gaddafi declared himself prime minister of a nation on the cusp of transformation. Young, sharp, and deeply critical of Western influence, Gaddafi swiftly moved to dismantle colonial-era structures. Foreign military bases were closed, and a wave of nationalist policies reshaped Libya's identity. To many, it felt like the dawn of renewed Arab pride, bold, uncompromising, and assertive. But over the next 4 decades, Gaddafi's rule would harden. What began with revolutionary fervor eventually gave way to authoritarianism and unrest, culminating in his downfall in 2011. It stands as a powerful reminder: not all revolutions end where they begin. Release Bridge album. Have you ever heard a goodbye wrapped in harmony so beautiful it feels like a promise you never wanted broken? On January 26, 1970, Simon and Garfunkel released Bridge Over Troubled Water, their final studio album, and, unknowingly, their farewell letter to the world. Born from months of meticulous recording across New York, LA, and Nashville, the album fused gospel, folk, and world influences into something both intimate and universal. The title track, powered by Art Garfunkel's soaring vocals and Larry Knechtel's reverent piano, sounded less like a pop song and more like a hymn for the lost and lonely. Behind the scenes, though, tension was building. While Paul Simon poured himself into songwriting, Garfunkel was off in Hollywood chasing a film career. The growing divide would soon become irreparable. Yet for one last time, they struck a chord that echoed far beyond the charts. Selling over 25 million copies, the album became one of the best-selling in history. But more than that, it gave us a parting gift: proof that even the most fragile partnerships can create something that endures forever. Jackson 5. Hits number 1. Back in the winter of 1970, something electric was happening on every teenage turntable across America. A group of 5 brothers from Gary, Indiana, dressed in bell-bottoms, bright smiles, and bursting with Motown magic, had just made pop history. On January 31st, their debut single, I Want You Back, rocketed to the top of the Billboard Hot 100, just weeks after they lit up living rooms nationwide with a jaw-dropping performance on The Ed Sullivan Show. At just 11 years old, Michael Jackson sang like he'd already lived a dozen lifetimes, his voice dancing between heartbreak and joy with uncanny precision. Behind the scenes, Motown's secret songwriting weapon, the corporation, had cooked up a song so catchy, so cleanly produced, it felt like a new kind of soul had landed. Critics called it bubblegum pop, but the groove had bite. The Jackson 5 weren't just a teen act, they were a force. Their sound was youthful but polished, playful yet powerful. With that one song, they didn't just ask for your attention, they took it and never gave it back. Black Sabbath debut. What if the sound of thunder cracking over a graveyard could be pressed onto vinyl? On February 13th, 1970, of all days, a Friday, Black Sabbath unleashed their self-titled debut album, and with it, a genre the world had never truly heard before. Recorded in a single, eerie 12-hour session in London, the record captured something raw and unsettling, like the soundtrack to a storm no one saw coming. Tony Iommi's guitar, forever changed by an industrial accident that cost him his fingertips, growled with menace. Geezer Butler's lyrics whispered occult visions. And then there was Ozzy Osbourne, whose voice wavered between desperate and demonic, as if he were half prophet, half possessed. Tracks like The Wizard and NIB didn't just bend the rules of rock, they buried them and danced on the dirt. Critics didn't quite know what to make of it, but audiences did. The album climbed the charts, and decades later, it still echoes in every riff that dares to go darker. That night in 1970, heavy metal wasn't just born, it crawled out of the shadows. Which event from 1970 surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Chicago 7 Acquitted. In an era when the streets of America felt like battlegrounds of ideology, few moments captured the nation's fracture quite like the trial of the Chicago 7. Born from the fiery protests outside the 1968 Democratic National Convention, this group of anti-war activists, Abby Hoffman, Jerry Rubin, Tom Hayden, Rennie Davis, David Dellinger, John Froines, and Lee Weiner, were dragged into federal court, accused of conspiring to incite chaos. Their trial, which began in the fall of 1969, quickly turned into political theater, full of outbursts, contempt charges, and a judge whose bias was so blatant it became part of the headlines. The defendants weren't just fighting for acquittal, they were challenging a system many believed was cracking under its own weight. On February 18, 1970, after months of spectacle and soul-searching, the jury cleared them of conspiracy. Though 5 still faced convictions for crossing state lines to incite a riot, those charges would later be overturned. What remained wasn't just a legal result. It was a defining moment of dissent in a country questioning its conscience. 500th nuclear explosion. What happens when a nation lights its 500th atomic fire beneath the earth, and barely anyone blinks? In late March 1970, deep within the Nevada desert, the United States crossed a chilling threshold, the detonation of its 500th nuclear device since Hiroshima. This was no accident of history. It was the result of a calculated and relentless testing program that had grown in both scale and ambition. With each underground blast, craters scarred the landscape, seismic waves rippled outward, and mushroom clouds once visible in the 1950s faded only in public memory, not in frequency. These tests weren't just scientific, they were statements of global dominance, rehearsals for an apocalypse that never came, but always loomed. The US would go on to conduct over 1,000 such explosions before a moratorium finally halted the program in 1992. Years later, President Clinton would extend that halt and sign the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in 1996, though Congress still has not ratified it. In a world where silence can hide a detonation, this moment in 1970 reminded us just how deafening power can become. Release Bitches Brew. It sounded like chaos at first, alien, electric, and unapologetically bold. But by the end of March 1970, Brew, the 27th studio album by jazz visionary Miles Davis, had cracked open a new dimension in music. Recorded in just 3 days the previous August, the album fused jazz with rock, funk, and something darker, more primal. The studio became a laboratory of sound, with Davis leading an ensemble of boundary-pushing musicians, Wayne Shorter, Chick Corea, John McLaughlin, through sprawling improvisations and hypnotic grooves. Brew didn't follow rules. It dismantled them, one chord at a time. The result was Davis's most commercially successful release to date, peaking at number 35 on the Billboard charts and earning him his first gold record. But more than success, it left a mark, a seismic shift in how jazz could sound, feel, and evolve. Though critics were divided at first, the album would eventually be hailed as a masterpiece of modern music. To this day, it remains a blueprint for fearless innovation, proof that the boldest experiments can leave behind the deepest resonance. Cigarette ads banned. There was a time when cigarettes danced across American airwaves, slick, seductive, and omnipresent. But on April 1, 1970, President Richard Nixon signed a law that brought that smoky spectacle to an end. The Public Health Cigarette Smoking Act banned all cigarette advertising on radio and television, marking a seismic shift in how the nation viewed tobacco. It wasn't an April Fool's gag. It was the culmination of years of rising concern, fueled by damning reports from the Surgeon General linking smoking to cancer, heart disease, and birth defects. The ban was set to take effect on January 2, 1971, and tobacco giants like Philip Morris made one final push, buying up ad slots on every major network show the night before. At exactly 11:50 p.m., during The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, the last cigarette commercial aired, and with it, an era vanished into smoke. It was a turning point in American public health, an assertive, long-overdue warning shot in a decades-long war between regulation and addiction. From that moment forward, the airwaves would never breathe the same again. McCartney leaves Beatles. Do you remember where you were the day the music quietly broke apart? On April 10, 1970, fans around the world awoke to news that felt like a whispered heartbreak. Paul McCartney had announced he would no longer be working with the Beatles. The revelation came not with a formal statement from the band, but tucked inside a press release for his debut solo album, McCartney, framed as a self-interview filled with subtle hints and quiet finality. Though couched in modest language, the message was clear enough. The greatest band in modern history had come to an end. Behind the scenes, tensions over creative control, management disputes, and diverging personal paths had worn thin the once magical bond between four Liverpool lads who had changed the world. McCartney's announcement, while understated, landed like a thunderclap. Newspapers splashed the headlines, "Paul quits the Beatles," and stunned fans mourned as if they'd lost something personal. And in a way, they had. The Beatles never reunited. The curtain fell, not with a bang, but with a softly spoken goodbye wrapped in vinyl and liner notes. If this trip through 1970 brought back memories or taught you something new, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys through time. Apollo 13 Incident. Barely 24 hours after the world learned the Beatles were no more, another story began unfolding, this one high above the Earth and far more perilous. On April 11, 1970, Apollo 13 thundered off the launch pad, aiming for the moon. But fate had other plans. Just 2 days into the mission, a deafening explosion ruptured an oxygen tank aboard the service module, crippling life support systems and triggering one of the most harrowing survival efforts in space history. With their lunar landing aborted, astronauts Jim Lovell, Fred Hayes, and Jack Swigert faced a chilling new mission: make it home alive. Inside the dim cockpit of the lunar module Aquarius, they fought freezing temperatures, dwindling power, and rising carbon dioxide. On the ground, engineers at Mission Control worked around the clock, scripting emergency procedures in real time, often with slide rules and scrap paper. Against all odds, the crew splashed down safely on April 17th. Apollo 13 was dubbed a successful failure, but in truth, it became a symbol of resilience, grit, and ingenuity. Proof that even when systems fail, the human spirit can improvise its way home. Kent State shooting. May 1970 arrived like a thunderclap, and with it, one of the darkest chapters of American protest history. On May 4th, the quiet campus of Kent State University was jolted by the sound of rifles as 28 Ohio National Guardsmen opened fire on a crowd of unarmed students. In just 13 chaotic seconds, 67 bullets were fired, fatally striking 4 young people, Allison Krauss, Jeffrey Miller, Sandra Scheuer, and William Schroeder, and injuring 9 more. Some had been peacefully protesting the U.S. invasion of Cambodia. Others were simply walking to class. The campus green, once a place of routine, was transformed into the setting of national mourning. Shock turned to rage as haunting photographs swept across newspapers, capturing the frozen scream of a nation questioning its conscience. The tragedy sparked a nationwide student strike, closing more than 450 colleges and universities, and intensified the anti-war movement already boiling across the country. A federal commission would later describe the shootings as unnecessary, unwarranted, and inexcusable. Yet no one was ever held accountable. The gunfire ended quickly, but the echoes of Kent State still resonate, a solemn reminder that even the most peaceful spaces are not immune to unrest. Release Let It Be. What do you play when a band quietly says goodbye without ever saying the words? On May 8, 1970, just weeks after Paul McCartney confirmed what fans had feared, that the Beatles were no more, their final studio album, Let It Be, was released into a world still reeling from the loss. The music had been recorded more than a year earlier, during sessions clouded by creative rifts and personal distance. Originally meant to recapture their roots, the project became a somber farewell, its title track a hymn of quiet resignation. Released alongside a documentary that laid bare their unraveling, the album felt more like a eulogy than a celebration. Critics were lukewarm at the time, unsettled by the orchestral flourishes added by Phil Spector and the visible tension behind the scenes. And yet, Let It Be endured. It won the band an Academy Award for Best Original Song Score and, over time, came to be seen as a bittersweet curtain call. One last glimpse at the magic, fading into silence as the greatest band in modern history took its final bow. Peter Green quits band. Something strange was happening in rock and roll. Just weeks after Paul McCartney's quiet farewell to the Beatles stunned the world, another musical genius vanished into a haze of uncertainty. On May 20th, 1970, Peter Green, the founding guitarist of Fleetwood Mac and the blues-driven soul behind early hits like Black Magic Woman and Albatross, stepped off the stage and, seemingly, out of reality. Lured by the counterculture's spiritual pull, he immersed himself in a German commune after an invitation from model and icon Uschi Obermeier. Green, already drifting under the weight of mental illness and LSD-induced visions, made an impulsive decision. He wasn't going back. It took bandmate Mick Fleetwood and 2 roadies to physically retrieve him, just to finish the tour. But the damage had already been done. Within weeks, Green officially quit the band he had built from the ground up. His exit wasn't just a departure, it was a descent into a long silence, leaving fans to wonder how such brilliance could unravel so completely and so fast. Fleetwood Mac would go on. Peter Green, for a time, would not. Were you around in 1970? Share a personal memory from that year? We'd love to hear it. Kaline Injury. The crack of the bat was routine. What followed was anything but. On May 30th, 1970, during a seemingly ordinary play against the Milwaukee Brewers, Detroit Tigers legend Kaline sprinted toward a fly ball in right center field and collided full speed with teammate Jim Northrup in a devastating crash. The crowd fell silent as Kaline lay motionless on the warning track, his teammates and coaches rushing to his side. In the frantic seconds that followed, left fielder Willie Horton stepped in, responding with instinct, courage, and sheer determination to help his fallen teammate breathe again. Kaline was rushed to the hospital and, incredibly, returned to the lineup just one game later. Horton's actions earned him an award from the Michigan Heart Association, but more than that, they cemented a legacy of what it truly means to be a teammate. Quick thinking, deep care, and fearless response when it matters most. Angela Davis, fired. Can a single voice shake the pillars of a university? On June 20th, 1970, UCLA fired Angela Davis, again. This time, it wasn't her Communist Party membership under fire, but the raw power of her words. In a fiery speech denouncing the violent suppression of the People's Park protests, Davis used harsh language to condemn both police actions and the decisions of the university's leadership. To some, her words were fearless truth-telling. To others, a threat to order. Despite a court ruling that had reinstated her after the first dismissal, UCLA's Board of Regents, under intense political pressure from Governor Ronald Reagan, acted swiftly to remove her again. Davis's dismissal sent shockwaves through academia, triggering protests and reigniting the national debate over free speech, race, and political repression. In that moment, Angela Davis became more than an assistant professor. She became a lightning rod in a country on edge, and a lasting symbol of how dissent is often met with suppression when it refuses to stay quiet. American Top 40 launch. It all started on a hot summer day with a smooth voice from Hollywood and a stack of vinyl ready to spin. On July 4th, 1970, American Top 40 made its humble debut on just 7 radio stations, with Casey Kasem, part DJ, part storyteller, and full-time friend to the American teenager, at the helm. With his signature charm, Kasem didn't just count down hits. He stitched together chart numbers with artist trivia, listener dedications, and heartwarming tales that made pop music feel personal. From tear-jerking long-distance dedications to behind-the-scenes music facts, he transformed a simple countdown into an emotional journey every weekend. His, now iconic send-off, "Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars," wasn't just a sign-off, it was a promise. What began as a quirky idea in a tiny studio soon became a national tradition, echoing through living rooms, car stereos, and teenage bedrooms for generations. Thanks to Casey, the Top 40 was never just a list. It was the soundtrack to our lives. Heyerdahl Atlantic Voyage. Could ancient mariners have crossed oceans long before Columbus ever set sail? In July of 1970, Norwegian explorer Thor Heyerdahl dared the world to reconsider. Aboard Ra II, a papyrus raft built using ancient techniques from Lake Titicaca, Heyerdahl and a multinational crew set off from the Moroccan coast, braving open waters with nothing but rope, reeds, and resolve. For 57 grueling days, they battled Atlantic swells, salt-stung skin, and the constant threat of failure. But when they reached Barbados, after 4,000 miles adrift, they didn't just complete a voyage, they made history. This wasn't just a stunt. It was Heyerdahl's bold attempt to challenge the academic consensus, suggesting that civilizations like the ancient Egyptians may have made transoceanic contact with the Americas. Though mainstream scholars still largely reject his theory, the success of Ra proved that the journey was at least possible. Today, the raft rests in Oslo's Kon-Tiki Museum, a relic not just of reeds, but of relentless curiosity and the enduring spirit of exploration. Vince Lombardi passed away. The first days of September 1970 were cloaked in mourning as the world of football lost one of its most revered giants. Vince Lombardi, more than a coach, a symbol of grit and greatness, passed away at age 57 after a brief and devastating battle with colon cancer. Though the end came swiftly, his legacy had been built brick by brick through a lifetime of discipline, honor, and sheer determination. As head coach of the Green Bay Packers, Lombardi transformed a struggling franchise into an empire, capturing 5 NFL championships, including victories in the first 2 Super Bowls. He was a man who demanded excellence, not just in athleticism, but in character, and who believed that effort was everything. In his final chapter, he brought that same spirit to Washington, turning around the Redskins with his characteristic drive. After his passing, the NFL paid its highest tribute, renaming the Super Bowl trophy in his honor. Today, the Vince Lombardi Trophy doesn't just celebrate champions, it immortalizes the values of the man who taught the world what winning truly means. Jimi Hendrix passed away. The summer of 1970 ended with a silence that felt like the amp had blown on the soul of rock and roll. On September 18th, Jimi Hendrix, the man who turned a Stratocaster into a lightning rod for sound, rebellion, and poetry, was found lifeless in a London flat. Just 27 years old, Hendrix had reshaped the landscape of music in less than 4 years, fusing blues, psychedelia, and sonic innovation into a style so otherworldly, it felt like it came from the stars. His sudden passing left fans stunned and an entire generation grasping at echoes. But the tragedy didn't stop there. Mere weeks later, Janis Joplin's voice was silenced in a Los Angeles hotel room, also at 27. Along with the earlier losses of Brian Jones and Alan Blind Owl Wilson, the passing of Hendrix and Joplin gave rise to a chilling myth, the 27 Club. It wasn't just a number. It became a symbol of brilliance burned too fast, proof that even legends can fade before their final notes are played. Jim Morrison, Convicted. The wild spirit of rock and roll collided headfirst with the law in one of music's most infamous courtroom dramas. On September 20th, 1970, Jim Morrison, the magnetic, unpredictable frontman of The Doors, was convicted following allegations stemming from a turbulent 1969 concert in Miami. That night, the auditorium was packed beyond capacity, the air thick with tension and expectation. Morrison's performance grew increasingly erratic, challenging the crowd with defiance and unpredictability. At one point, prosecutors claimed he had acted indecently on stage, though no photo or video evidence ever definitively confirmed what occurred. What followed was a media storm and a national debate over freedom of expression and cultural values. Morrison was seen by some as a disruptive force, and by others as a misunderstood artist, judged not solely for his actions, but for what he represented during a time of immense social change. His 6-month sentence and fine became a powerful symbol of the widening divide between traditional authority and a rebellious youth culture. Although Morrison appealed the conviction and remained free on bond, the legal process dragged on. In 1971, he relocated to Paris, seeking distance or perhaps clarity. He passed away there just months later at age 27, with the case still unresolved. In 2010, the state of Florida issued a posthumous pardon, acknowledging that the trial may have reflected more than just legal concerns, but a larger cultural clash of the era. PBS begins operations. Who could forget the quiet thrill of tuning into a channel that didn't shout at you, but spoke with warmth, wisdom, and wonder? On October 5, 1970, the Public Broadcasting Service, better known as PBS, took its first breath as a non-profit network with a bold mission: to educate, inspire, and uplift. Emerging from the ashes of national educational television, PBS set out to do what few others dared: fill American living rooms, not with commercials, but with curiosity. Almost overnight, PBS became a trusted companion in households across the country. Its programming spoke softly, but carried deep impact. Sesame Street taught children letters, numbers, and empathy. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood reminded viewers of all ages that they mattered, just as they were. And shows like The Electric Company turned reading into a game, while Nova brought the frontiers of science to life with wonder and clarity. Unlike commercial broadcasters, PBS answered not to advertisers, but to the public it served. Its funding came largely from viewer donations, grants, and public support, forging a bond that was personal and enduring. Over the decades, it became a sanctuary for thoughtful storytelling, where The Civil War by Ken Burns captivated a nation and Frontline challenged it to think more deeply. Through every shift in media and culture, PBS remained a lighthouse, quiet but constant, modest but mighty. And for millions of Americans, it wasn't just television. It was a window into the wider world and a mirror reflecting the better parts of who we could be. 20. Amazing. 1970s Disco 1. Hit wonder songs revisited. The disco era was a wild ride of flashing lights and infectious beats, but some hits came and went in a flash. These one-hit wonders ruled the dance floor, then vanished. What made them legendary? And why didn't their artists strike gold again? Let's rewind to the disco days and rediscover these unforgettable tracks. Turn the Beat Around, Vicki Sue Robinson. In 1976, Vicki Sue Robinson burst onto the disco scene with Turn the Beat Around, a high-energy anthem that celebrated the pure joy of dancing. With its infectious rhythm and irresistible groove, the song quickly climbed the charts, peaking at number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 and dominating the disco playlists of the era. Before this breakout hit, Robinson was relatively unknown, having worked as both a singer and actress without major success. But Turn the Beat Around changed everything. It became her signature song and even earned her a Grammy nomination. Though Robinson never replicated the success of this smash hit, she remained active in music and theater throughout her career, continuing to perform well into the 1990s. The song itself proved to have lasting power, getting a new lease on life when Gloria Estefan recorded a popular cover in 1994, introducing it to a whole new generation of listeners. Sadly, Vicki Sue Robinson passed away in 2000, but her legacy lives on through this disco classic, a track that still gets people moving on dance floors decades later. Armed and Extremely Dangerous, First Choice. Released in 1973, Armed and Extremely Dangerous by First Choice is a dramatic disco soul anthem with a powerful warning: beware of a heartbreaker on the loose. The song's lyrics paint a vivid picture of a man who charms his way into women's lives, only to leave them hurt and abandoned. With its urgent rhythm, soaring harmonies, and bold orchestration, the track became an instant standout in the early disco era. First Choice, a female vocal trio from Philadelphia, made their debut with this song, which quickly put them on the map. The group, led by Rochelle Fleming, was known for blending lush vocal arrangements with a danceable groove, a signature sound that helped shape the Philly soul and disco movements. Armed and Extremely Dangerous climbed the R&B and pop charts, solidifying First Choice as rising stars. Though they went on to release several other hits, this song remains their most iconic. The track's impact extended beyond the charts. It was even featured in the 1975 film The Stepford Wives, further cementing its place in pop culture. Decades later, Armed and Extremely Dangerous remains a classic, celebrated for its gripping storytelling and irresistible beat. Gimme Gimme Good Lovin'. Crazy Elephant. Released in 1969, Gimme Gimme Good Lovin' by Crazy Elephant is a high-energy bubblegum rock anthem featuring a man pleading for love and affection. With its infectious melody, driving beat, and sing-along chorus, the song quickly became a hit, reaching #1. 12 on the Billboard Hot 100. Crazy Elephant wasn't a traditional band, but rather a studio project assembled by producers Jerry Casanets and Jeff Katz, pioneers of the bubblegum pop sound. They were known for crafting radio-friendly, feel-good tracks performed by rotating session musicians. While Gimme Gimme Good Lovin' was their only major success, the song remains a classic example of late 60s bubblegum rock, capturing the era's upbeat and carefree spirit. Please comment 1 to let me know you'll be watching this video until the end. California Sun, The Rivieras. Released in 1963, California Sun by the Rivieras captures the carefree, sun-soaked vibe of California living. Originally recorded by Joe Jones in 1961, the Rivieras' high-energy surf rock version became a hit, peaking at #1, 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. Arriving just before the British invasion, the song's driving beat, infectious melody, and classic rock and roll sound made it a favorite of the era. Despite the Riviera's short-lived success, California Sun remains a staple of surf rock and has been featured in films like Good Morning, Vietnam, keeping its legacy alive. Who Put the Bump? Barry Mann. Released in 1961, Who Put the Bump? In the Bump, Bump, Bump by Barry Mann playfully celebrates the nonsense lyrics of doo-wop music. The song humorously credits these catchy sounds with helping the singer win his girlfriend's heart. Though Mann found greater success as a songwriter, this became his biggest hit as a performer, reaching #1, 7 on the Billboard Hot 100. He later teamed up with his wife, Cynthia Weil, to write legendary songs like You've Lost That Lovin' Feelin', solidifying his place in music history. Angel of the Morning, Merrily Rush. Released in 1968, Angel of the Morning by Merrily Rush tells the story of a woman embracing a fleeting romance. Its heartfelt lyrics, lush orchestration, and Rush's emotive vocals made it a major hit, reaching #1. 7 on the Billboard Hot 100. Written by Chip Taylor, the song became Rush's signature hit, earning her a Grammy nomination and solidifying her place in pop music history. Sugar, Sugar, The Archies. Released in 1969, Sugar. Sugar by the Archies is the ultimate feel-good pop anthem, dripping with sweet, catchy melodies that defined the bubblegum pop era. This upbeat track became an instant sensation, soaring to the top of the Billboard Hot 100 and holding the #1 spot. One spot for 4 weeks. It was the best-selling single of the year, proving that even a fictional band could leave a real mark on music history. The Archies were a studio creation, brought to life for The Archie Show, an animated TV series based on the beloved comic book characters. With Ron Dante's smooth vocals leading the way, Sugar was designed to be irresistibly fun, and it worked. Its sing-along chorus and infectious rhythm made it a staple at parties and radio stations. Even decades later, this song remains a nostalgic favorite, capturing the carefree joy of late 60s pop music. San Francisco, Scott McKenzie. Released in 1967, San Francisco, Be Sure to Wear Flowers in Your Hair by Scott McKenzie became the defining anthem of the Summer of Love. Written by John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas, the song invited young people to embrace peace, love, and the hippie movement in San Francisco. Its gentle melody and hopeful lyrics resonated deeply, making it a counterculture classic. The song reached #1, 4 on the Billboard Hot 100, and was a major international hit. Decades later, it remains a powerful symbol of 1960s idealism and the era's spirit of change. Don't Leave Me This Way, Thelma Houston. Released in 1976, Don't Leave Me. This Way by Thelma Houston is a soulful plea wrapped in an infectious disco groove. With its soaring vocals and emotional intensity, the song tells the story of someone desperately begging a lover not to walk away. Houston's powerhouse delivery, combined with a driving beat and rich orchestration, made it an instant dance floor sensation. Originally recorded by Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, the song was initially meant for Diana Ross, but Motown ultimately gave it to Houston. This decision paid off. Her version skyrocketed to #1. One on the Billboard Hot 100, turning it into her signature hit. Houston had been building her career since the 1960s, but Don't Leave Me This Way cemented her place in music history. Beyond its success in the disco era, the song later became an anthem during the AIDS epidemic, embraced by the LGBTQ+ community for its themes of love, loss, and resilience. Decades later, Houston's electrifying performance continues to make Don't Leave Me This Way one of the most beloved disco classics of all time. Knock on Wood, Amy Stewart. Released in 1979, Knock on Wood by Amy Stewart is a high-energy disco reimagining of Eddie Floyd's 1966 soul classic. While the original had a gritty, bluesy feel, Stewart's version transformed it into a dazzling dance floor, hit with electrifying production, dramatic orchestration, and her powerful, soaring vocals. The song's lyrics play on superstition, with the narrator hoping their love will last. So they knock on wood for good luck. Stewart, a trained dancer and singer, brought an undeniable presence to the disco scene with this track. Her striking fashion sense and theatrical stage performances helped Knock on Wood climb to the top of the Billboard Hot 100, making it her biggest and most recognizable hit. The song's infectious beat and dramatic arrangement perfectly suited the disco era, ensuring its place as a staple of the time. In 1985, it was re-released in the UK, where it once again reached the top 10, proving its enduring appeal. Even today, the song continues to be a go-to anthem for disco lovers, showcasing Stewart's unforgettable voice and energy. Makin' It, David Naughton. Released in 1979, Makin' It by David Naughton is an upbeat, feel-good disco anthem all about chasing success and enjoying the ride. With its infectious energy and catchy chorus, the song perfectly captured the optimism of the late 70s disco craze. Originally recorded as the theme song for the short-lived ABC sitcom Makin' It, in which Naughton starred, the track outlasted the show, soaring to #1. 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. Before his brief music career, Naughton was best known for his role in a popular series of Dr. Pepper commercials, where his charisma made him a recognizable face. The unexpected success of Makin' It turned him into a one-hit wonder, as he never followed up with another chart-topping single. The song's feel-good vibe and danceable beat also earned it a spot on the soundtrack of the 1979 comedy film Meatballs, further cementing its place in pop culture. While Naughton later gained fame for his starring role in An American Werewolf in London, 1981, Makin' It remains a nostalgic disco favorite, embodying the carefree spirit of an era where the dance floor was king. Ring My Bell, Anita Ward. Released in 1979, Ring My Bell by Anita Ward became an instant disco sensation, lighting up dance floors with its infectious groove and playful lyrics. At its core, the song is an invitation to unwind and enjoy the evening, but its flirtatious undertones and irresistible beat made it a standout hit. What really set it apart was its innovative use of electronic drums, giving it a futuristic sound that helped propel it straight to #1. On both the Billboard Hot 100 and the UK singles chart. Interestingly, Anita Ward wasn't originally destined for a music career. Before stepping into the spotlight, she was a school teacher, and Ring My Bell was actually written for a much younger artist, Stacey Ladisaw, with completely different lyrics. But when Ward recorded it, the song took on a whole new life and became her signature hit. Unfortunately, like many disco artists of the era, she struggled to replicate its success. After a brief attempt to continue in music, she eventually returned to teaching. Were you around during the disco era? Share your best dance floor story with us. Got to Be Real, Cheryl Lynn. Released in 1978, Got to Be Real by Cheryl Lynn is a disco anthem that celebrates love, confidence, and staying true to yourself. With its infectious groove, powerful vocals, and undeniable energy, the song became an instant favorite, lighting up dance floors and earning a permanent place in the Disco Hall of Fame. Its smooth blend of funk, R&B, and disco made it stand out, and Cheryl Lynn's soaring voice gave it an unforgettable spark. Lynn's journey to stardom was anything but conventional. She first gained attention as a contestant on The Gong Show, where her incredible voice wowed audiences and ultimately led to a record deal. Got to Be Real was her debut single, and though she released other songs throughout her career, this remains her defining hit. Adding to its star power, the song featured guitar work from Ray Parker Jr., who would later become famous for the Ghostbusters theme. I Love the Nightlife, Alicia Bridges. Released in 1978, I Love the Nightlife, Disco Round, by Alicia Bridges became an instant anthem for those who lived for the energy of the dance floor. With its infectious beat, smooth groove, and sultry vocals, the song perfectly captured the excitement of nightlife, making it a worldwide hit. Unlike many high-energy disco tracks of the time, I Love the Nightlife had a unique blend of disco and R&B, giving it a cool, laid-back feel that set it apart from the rest. Alicia Bridges had been working in music throughout the early 1970s, but this song, her debut single, was the one that put her on the map. Though she released more music, none reached the same level of success, making I Love the Nightlife her signature hit. The song found new life in the 1990s when it was featured in the cult classic film The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, introducing it to a whole new generation. Play That Funky Music, Wild Cherry. Released in 1976, Play That Funky Music by Wild Cherry became an anthem of the disco era, blending rock and funk into an irresistible groove. The song tells the story of a rock band struggling to adapt to the changing music scene, only to realize that playing funky music is the way to go. With its electrifying guitar riffs, powerful brass section, and unforgettable chorus, it quickly became a dance floor favorite. Wild Cherry, led by singer and guitarist Rob Parisi, originally started as a hard rock band in Ohio. The inspiration for Play That Funky Music came during a club performance when an audience member jokingly told the band to play that funky music, white boy. Seeing potential in the phrase, Parisi wrote the song in just 5 minutes, unaware that it would soon make music history. The track shot to number one on the Billboard Hot 100 and sold over 2.5 million copies, earning platinum status. Which of these songs still gets you grooving today? Turn the beat around. Armed and Extremely Dangerous. Play That Funky Music. Other. Please leave your answer in the comments below. Disco Duck, Rick Dees and His Cast of Idiots. Released in 1976, Disco Duck by Rick Dees and His Cast of Idiots is one of the most unusual and unforgettable hits of the disco era. The song tells the quirky story of a man who suddenly starts dancing like a duck at a party, complete with exaggerated quacking and a funky beat. While it may have started as a joke, Its catchy rhythm and playful lyrics turned it into a surprise sensation, soaring to #1. One on the Billboard Hot 100 and selling over 4 million copies. Rick Dees, best known as a radio DJ rather than a musician, wrote Disco Duck as a lighthearted parody of the disco craze sweeping the nation. However, the song took on a life of its own, earning Dees a People's Choice Award and cementing his place in pop culture history. Despite its success, he was unable to follow up with another big hit, but Disco Duck remains a novelty classic. Whether you love it or find it hilariously bizarre, there's no denying its place in disco history, because once you hear that unmistakable quack, you'll never forget it. In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, Iron Butterfly. Released in 1968, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida by Iron Butterfly is a psychedelic rock epic that became one of the most iconic songs of its era. Originally intended to be titled In the Garden of Eden, the name was famously altered due to lead singer Doug Ingles' slurred pronunciation, reportedly influenced by intoxication. Despite this unusual origin, the song became a defining moment in rock history. Clocking in at over 17 minutes, the track was groundbreaking for its extended instrumental sections, featuring hypnotic guitar riffs, a heavy organ groove, and an unforgettable drum solo by Ron Bushy. This made it one of the first songs to push the boundaries of traditional rock radio formats, though a shortened version was released as a single, reaching #1, 30 on the Billboard Hot 100. The In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida album went on to sell over 30 million copies worldwide, cementing Iron Butterfly's place in rock history. While the band never achieved the same level of mainstream success again, this song remains a legendary piece of psychedelic and progressive rock, often regarded as a precursor to the heavier sounds that followed in the 1970s. Monster Mash, Bobby Boris Pickett. Released in 1962, Monster Mash by Bobby Boris Pickett is a playful, spooky-themed novelty song that became an instant Halloween classic. The track tells the story of a mad scientist who witnesses his monster rise from the slab and break into a brand new dance craze, the Monster Mash. The song's eerie yet humorous lyrics, combined with Pickett's theatrical, Boris Karloff-inspired narration, made it an unforgettable seasonal hit. Pickett, an aspiring actor and singer, co-wrote Monster Mash with musician Leonard Capizzi. The duo recorded it with a backing band called the Crypt Kickers, which featured top session musicians. Drawing inspiration from dance crazes like the twist and the mashed potato, the song capitalized on the era's love of novelty records. Released just in time for Halloween, it climbed to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in October 1962. Though Pickett released several follow-ups, including Monster's Holiday and Monster Rap, none matched the success of Monster Mash. The song resurfaces every Halloween, making it a timeless hit that continues to bring spooky fun to generations of listeners. In the year 2525, Zager and Evans. Released in 1969, In the Year 2525 by Zager and Evans is a haunting vision of a future where technology gradually erases human individuality and control. The lyrics, structured as a timeline moving forward in thousand-year increments, predict a world where machines take over human functions, natural reproduction ends, and ultimately, humanity fades into obscurity. The song resonated deeply with audiences at the time, tapping into growing anxieties about the rapid advancements in technology and the potential consequences of over-reliance on automation. Its eerie, apocalyptic tone struck a chord during the late 60s, an era marked by space exploration, the Vietnam War, and cultural shifts. In the Year 2525 became a massive hit, spending 6 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and topping the UK charts as well. Despite this success, Zager and Evans were unable to produce another hit, making them the only artists to top both the US and UK charts without ever having another song reach the charts again. The duo disbanded in 1971, but their one-hit wonder remains a chilling and thought-provoking piece of late 60s pop culture. Spirit in the Sky, Norman Greenbaum. Released in 1969, Spirit in the Sky by Norman Greenbaum is a fusion of rock and gospel, telling the story of a man confidently preparing for the afterlife. Greenbaum, a Jewish musician, was inspired to write the song after watching a gospel performance on TV, proving that spiritual themes could cross cultural boundaries. With its fuzzy, distorted guitar riff, hand claps, and soaring vocals, Spirit in the Sky became an instant classic, peaking at number 1, 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, and selling over 2 million copies. Before his solo career, Greenbaum was part of Dr. West's Medicine Show and Junk Band. Though he never replicated its success, Spirit in the Sky remains one of the most recognizable songs in rock history, frequently appearing in films, commercials, and pop culture. The Hustle, Van McCoy. Released in 1975, The Hustle by Van McCoy became the ultimate soundtrack to the disco dance craze. This smooth, upbeat instrumental captured the energy of New York City's nightlife and was directly inspired by a dance McCoy saw at a Manhattan club. Recognizing its potential, he rushed to the studio and brought the idea to life with the help of top session musicians, creating a track that would define an era. The Hustle quickly climbed the charts, reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, and earning McCoy a Grammy Award. Though he had long been a respected producer and songwriter, working with major artists like Aretha Franklin and Gladys Knight, this was his first major success as a solo artist. While he continued making music, The Hustle remained his biggest hit, forever linking his name to the disco movement. Even today, the song is instantly recognizable, evoking images of glittering dance floors, spinning disco balls, and the carefree energy of the 70s. Whether you know the moves or not, once that melody starts, it's impossible to resist the groove. Let's All Chant, the Michael Zager Band. Released in 1978, Let's All Chant by the Michael Zager Band became a disco sensation thanks to its hypnotic beat and unforgettable chorus. Your body, my body, everybody move your body. With its pulsating rhythm, layered orchestration, and driving bass line, the song was designed to keep dance floors packed, and it quickly became a worldwide hit. Michael Zager was already an accomplished songwriter, arranger, and producer before creating this disco masterpiece. With its energetic groove and infectious hook, Let's All Chant took the world by storm, selling over 5 million copies and cementing its place in disco history. While the Michael Zager Band had other recordings, none reached the same level of success. The song's influence extended beyond the 70s, as it has been sampled and remixed multiple times, proving that its irresistible energy never fades. Whether at a retro dance party or in a modern club, Let's All Chant continues to bring people to the dance floor, proving that great disco music is truly timeless. More, 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 Andrea True Connection. Released in 1976, More, More, More by Andrea True Connection became one of the defining anthems of the disco era, dripping with sensual energy and an irresistible groove. The song's bold lyrics, like "I want your love," perfectly captured the excitement and indulgence of the disco lifestyle, while its hypnotic beat kept dance floors packed. Andrea True had an unconventional path to music. She originally worked in the adult film industry, but saw an opportunity to pivot when she found herself stuck in Jamaica due to financial restrictions. Rather than let the situation go to waste, she used the time to record More, More, More with producer Greg Diamond. The result was a disco classic, with its signature hook later becoming one of the most recognizable riffs in pop music. The song climbed the charts, peaking at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and becoming an international hit. Friday Night, Bell and James. Released in 1978, Friday Night by Bell and James is a vibrant disco anthem that perfectly captures the excitement of the weekend. With its infectious groove and feel-good lyrics, the song celebrates the freedom and joy that come with finally escaping the work week. The energetic beat, smooth harmonies, and funky guitar licks make it an irresistible track for the dance floor. Bell and James, the talented duo behind the song, consisted of Leroy Bell and Casey James. Before stepping into the spotlight, they were successful songwriters, crafting hits for R&B legends like the O'Jays and Teddy Pendergrass. When they released Friday Night, it quickly became their signature song, climbing the Billboard Hot 100 and solidifying their place in disco history. The song gained even more recognition after being featured in the 1979 film Roller Boogie, which showcased its upbeat, party-ready vibe. Which disco one-hit wonder takes you back to the best dance floor memories? You Make Me Feel, Sylvester. Released in 1978, You Make Me Feel, Mighty Real, by Sylvester is a euphoric disco anthem that captures the pure joy of dancing and being unapologetically yourself. With its pulsing beat, shimmering synths, and Sylvester's soaring falsetto, the song became an instant classic, radiating an energy that still fills dance floors today. Sylvester, often called the Queen of Disco, was a trailblazing artist who broke barriers with his flamboyant style and gender-defying persona. He began his career in the 1960s, performing in underground music scenes before embracing disco, where he truly found his voice. Inspired by Donna Summer's I Feel Love, he worked with producer Patrick Cowley to incorporate electronic instrumentation, helping to shape the sound of dance music for years to come. More than just a club hit, You Make Me Feel, Mighty Real, became an anthem for self-expression, particularly within the LGBTQ+ community. Its message of living authentically and embracing love resonated deeply, solidifying Sylvester's legacy as a pioneer. Though he passed away in 1988, his influence on dance music and LGBTQ+ culture remains undeniable, and this song continues to inspire generations. 1970 was a year of chaos, change, and cultural revolution. Which moment hit you the hardest or brought back the most vivid memories? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this trip back in time, give us a like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss what's next. Thanks for watching.